Okay. Everything all right, Jill?
Yes, yeah, I'm recording.
Okay, thank you. So welcome to the extraordinary meeting of the Planning, Highways and Environment Committee today, Monday, the 14th of December. We've called this meeting as there's a number of planning applications that have come in after our previous meeting. And so we need to look at these before Christmas. So have I got any apologies for absence? I think everybody's present, aren't they, Jill?
Yes, all present.
And have we got any members' interests?
Councillor Cornford.
Yes, agenda item 5, C and D. I have a pecuniary interest.
Thank you for declaring that.
Would you mind if I left the meeting after C? I mean after B?
That's fine by me.
No.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we haven't got any public participation sessions, have we?
No, none. Have you got any chairperson's announcements?
Oh, thank you for that. No, I haven't actually got any announcements this evening. Thank you. So if we move on to the planning applications for consultation, the first one is 6 Harold Avenue. It's proposed tree works to a cypress and an elder, both to be felled. And I think Councillor Wallin is leading on this.
Yes, indeed, Councillor Scott. Yeah, I went along and tried to have a look, but you can't actually see the trees really from the road. You can just about see them in distance with other trees next to them. And looking at the application and the pictures and things and looking at what you can see, in all honesty, I don't think it makes a vast amount of difference either way. So I would say no comment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wallin. We have there's a bit of feedback there. We have had a report by the tree warden. Jill was able to get that today by him. I'm just gonna try and bring it up.
Yeah, I did see that.
Did you see that? Yeah. So
the tree warden is predominantly against doing it so soon, in fact. But as I say, having tried to look at it from the public area, you can't really see them either way, and there are other trees there. So it doesn't seem to me to actually do a vast amount. And putting it back 2 or 3 years doesn't really make a big deal in the grand scheme of things, in my mind.
okay, thank you. So the tree warden suggests that both were coming to the end of their lives. So T1 and T2 are struggling and give little to the surroundings. Next door, there's also a beautiful mulberry tree. And to some extent, these 2 trees that are being proposed are actually to a possible detriment to the large mulberry tree. So he suggests that actually the felling of them is, he'd support the felling of them, but urge the residents to consider planting at least 1, ideally 2 new trees. And he suggested some species that they could plant. So he's not against the felling of the trees, which I think, Councillor Cornford.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point that it actually backs on to number 90 Canterbury Road, which is a very, very large garden. It's got a lot of trees there. And by taking out those 2 poorly maintained older trees, it will actually give the others on that boundary line more room to develop. So it's a good thing, definitely.
Exactly. Have we got any other comments? Sorry, Councillor Cornford.
No, I just wanted to say, could anybody find 6 Harold Avenue on Google? On Google, because I couldn't. There was 3, 4A, 8 and 10A, etc. on that side of the road.
I tried to get it on Google Maps and it came up with 6A on the other side of the road, which is complete garbage. So I went and had a look, and that's how I could see what you could see from
no, it was just an anomaly because on the Google Google didn't match the plan.
No, Google often doesn't.
That's caveat using Google.
Councillor Page.
Just a couple of things to note. The land registry document, which was used to show the plot, is actually from April 1989, and there have been a lot of changes in Harold Avenue in the intervening years, and I don't think it actually reflects the reality today. Equally, from what I could see on the application, the attached tree report doesn't relate to the trees that we're discussing now, but the report that was sought by the town clerk today is the correct one.
Lovely, thank you. So have I got a proposal for this application? Councillor Cornford.
I propose that, yes, I propose that we agree.
Okay, or
We support the application for felling of these two trees.
Councillor Wallen, thank you. All in favour? Thank you. Can we say that we support it following the recommendations of the tree warden? Is that all okay with everybody? Sorry, I added that after we voted. Is that okay that we follow the tree warden's recommendation to add or replace the trees?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So on to the next application. So this is Springfield Nursing Home, Hengist Road, change of use and conversion of part of existing nursing home to two-bed flats and erection of a two 3-bedroom house with associated parking. So are any councillors with comments on this application? Councillor Donaldson?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of documentation with this application, and I think they've done quite a good job of it. It's interesting to note that the actual applicant is All Access Limited, which is a scaffolder. So not a nursing home person, but anyway, yeah, it is maybe on the face of it, it is a good application.
So were there any complaints from residents? I can't see a complaint from resident actually on the application site. The one thing that we were concerned about were the tree constraints plan overlay, which I may be able to share with you. Councillor Page, before I do that, do you want to comment?
I just wanted to note that the Environment Agency have given some advice regarding the sound insulation and noise reduction for buildings code of practice should be submitted and adhered to, particularly because the railway line is 30 metres close by, and they recommend that this should be done to protect any future residents.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cornford?
I just want to ask Councillor Page where that was, because when I read it, sorry, go on.
It was one of the supporting documents on the application.
Ah, obviously I missed that because I only saw about the foul water and the fact that nobody could occupy unless they got that sorted, and it was marked as unknown how they were going to get rid of the foul water on the application. Okay.
So maybe it was one's Environment Agency document and one's the Environment Health document.
Yeah.
There's two documents there.
I just missed it.
So the tree constraints overlay, let me see if I can share it with you. No, I can't share it. I can't share the screen, Jill. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. Let me see. Ooh. I don't have the document open. That's the problem. I've got to find it first. So what it is it exactly that you're looking for?
Oh, sorry. Can you not enable me to share screen, or is that?
No.
I can just describe what's in front of me. So basically, we've got a map where there's the design, and then there's the trees, and it states there's a conflict with tree 1, proposed new driveway, boundary wall and bin store solutions, careful installation of access and bin store installation to be engineered with porous surface retaining existing ground levels, installed by hand. So that sounds you know, well done. Conflict with T2, proposed new driveway solutions, and that was the same kind of thing. Careful installation of access driveway to be engineered with porous surface retaining existing ground levels, installed by hand. And then another conflict, and then the resolution was careful installation of garage foundations to be installed using a pad pile and beam type foundation to bridge over existing ground level. So I can't see anywhere where they want to take anything out, apart from there's conflict with G1, 2, 3 and T6, proposed structures, landscaping within. Oh, okay, so these are removal of trees, T6, and G1, G2 and G3. I think the G's are hedges. Let me see. So I think, you know, until the tree officer has a look at this, because it must be in the tree conservation area, then I wouldn't be proposing that it's accepted until he's had a look at it. Are there any other comments on the actual application in general, Councillor Cornford?
Yes, just about the parking, because they say they've got 6 parking spaces and for vehicles and 14 parking bays for cycles, but with the construction of 2 2-bedroom flats, that's obviously at least 4 vehicles, and 2 3-bedroom houses, that's 6 vehicles, that's needing 10 at least parking spaces. And then I think you mentioned the KCC directive of 1.2 parking spaces.
So if there's 2, so there's 4 units altogether going up?
6
units, yeah.
No, sorry. Yes, 4 units. I beg your pardon. Yes, 4. You're right. Not me. Yeah, 4 units, but it's 6 and 4, as in people.
Yeah, so in the KCC ruling and in standard ruling, you have 1.2 parking spaces per house or per unit. So under material considerations, we can't sort of go against 6 parking spaces.
Okay. No, I'm not suggesting going. No, it's just, is it adequate? But if it is, then it is.
In their standards, it is.
Okay. All right. No, that's good. That's good.
Are there any other comments? Councillor Page.
I think again with this property, we've discussed this previously, is the access and egress onto the road, Hengist Road, because it's quite near a bend. That would be a consideration for me as to the safety coming in and out of the property.
Should we see? Okay, so I tried to look, I've just clicked on the document that said highways and it's coming up with Southern Water. So maybe if I click on something, it will come up with highways. Let's see. No, that's Southern Water as well. So I'm on the planning site and it has a document called highways, but when you click on it, it's actually Southern Water. So we can't actually see what highways are saying, unfortunately. Okay. So if we perhaps then make a suggestion that I think, to be honest, because we're not totally sure about the highways access, and I'm not, because there's not a tree report as such, then I don't think we can sort of say no comment, and I don't think we can say that we support it at the moment. So the only other option is that we object with those comments. Councillor Cornford?
Yes, the highways report that I read on that didn't have any issues. I can't quote it, but it didn't have any issues. Also, we've got that Puffin crossing coming up at the Ursuline, which creates a cul-de-sac in Hengist Road, which will actually improve traffic in that area.
It is a big area, isn't it, down there? Councillor Pennington, you're on mute at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, in fact, the pedestrian, what do they call it? Puffin crossing or something?
Puffin crossing.
Outside Ursuline is coming up at the Joint Transport Board tomorrow. And our friend who was lobbying us is lobbying JTB members very strongly. I must say that I think the proposal will go through as it stands. That's what I've heard. But I just thought I would inform you that he's pushing the case for not closing Hengist. I made my views known some time ago, as I think actually it's a better idea to close it off. He claims that the exit from Hengist Road westbound is the only one for about 2 kilometres, which I find a bit surprising. I can't believe it's that far between that and the main crossroads between the Canterbury Road and St Mildred's, and the next one, which is just when you get into Birchington, I think. But anyway, I just thought I'd let you know that that's on the agenda for tomorrow.
Councillor Cornford.
Sorry, could I ask Councillor Pennington, you said he is pushing. I missed who that was. He.
The board, I think.
The board. Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks.
So what if I got a proposal for this one? I mean, I think it's kind of lack of information really from our point of view, that we're not sort of clear on the tree that's going to be felled and the quality of the tree. So until we have the tree officer's report, then it would be hard to judge this. And then where I am on the planning portal, I can't find the highways report. But Joanna, did you find the highways report?
I did read a highways report on there, and I did think that to the untrained eye, this is a good application. You know, it's well controlled. The Environment Agency have asked for reports. Southern Water have asked for reports. It's being scrutinised, and it's an attractive design, and they are being considerate of the environment there, the trees, which have been sorely neglected. I mean, so many of them were choked up with ivy. And trees in a cultivated environment really do need maintenance, and they haven't had it. I mean, I
Okay.
would support it with ensuring that the predominantly green landscape is maintained. Because of there's the pollution from the road and the railway line. So it can only enhance inhabitants' lives, quality of air. Mind you, it's right with the sea as well.
Okay, would you like to propose that, Councillor Cornford?
Yeah, I'm really bad at this. So wording it.
Just
Yeah.
what you just said, I think, that you support it with as long as green infrastructure is maintained. I'd like to add an amendment to that the tree officers report is adhered to. So I'd second it with that amendment, if you're happy with that, Councillor Cornford.
Yes, I mean that's good. Jill, did you get all that? Because it was a bit rambling. I didn't actually formulate.
Okay, so from what I've got here, supported as long as the green infrastructure remains intact and the tree officer's report is obtained, because I think that's what you're saying, isn't it, that you haven't actually got it
made available,
is obtained,
and all directives from Southern Water and the Environment Agency are complied with. Would you say, Hannah?
Yeah.
And then to add that we do think it's a good application, a good design.
So are all councillors in favour of that? Good.
Yep.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Councillor Cornford, we're now on to C. So
Okay, I'm off.
all
Good
right.
night, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Good night,
Bye.
Joanna.
So C, St Mildred's Bay, St Mildred's Garden, change of use from cafe to a mixed bar and cafe, together with alterations to the height of roof, fenestration of store and existing cafe, alterations to boundary treatment and installation of air conditioning unit. So this is quite a complex application. Councillor Page, would you like to start on this?
Yes, thank you. The first point I'd like to highlight is in the detailed title of this application. The change of use to a mixed bar and cafe, use class EB and sui generis. Sui generis I take note of because the phrase actually means unique, that there's nothing else like it. This I would like to take exception to, because this is not a unique business. It's not a one-off. And to use that in part of the description for the usage of the premises, I believe to be incorrect. So I would like to make that point noted. Then to go on to the other reasons for the application. Height of roof, change to fenestration, alterations to the boundary and the installation of the air conditioning unit. Those create complications for residents who've actually submitted a number of objections to this. But to start off, the last application that was submitted was refused by TDC, mainly on the basis of the hours of operation. This application has come through with hours of business which have changed. They are now 9 AM to 11 PM daily, 7 days a week. So I think the application has been put in to rectify the reason for the refusal last time. However, a lot of the objections still remain the same, particularly for the residents. I should also note, before I go on to the main objections, is that Kent Police have a supporting document on this application saying that a formal security plan is required, which addresses the concern that were raised by the designing out crime officer. Responses to their communications on the 3rd of July this year and the 6th of October this year still need to be addressed to minimise the opportunity for crime, fear of crime, antisocial behaviour, nuisance and conflict. So those have not been responded to or addressed by the owner of the business. The public objections, first of all, relate to proximity to the residential properties. The change in the hours of business does not change their concerns about the proximity and their concerns around noise, intrusion, and other effects, particularly the noise, which they believe will be intrusive and cause distress, which will be bad for mental health and well-being and have a negative effect on residential amenity and lifestyle benefit. They are emphasising time and again that customers would need to be inside the premises by 9 p.m. with the doors and windows closed and not to remain out on the patio. A couple of residents have quoted that the distance from the patio to their living accommodation and bedroom accommodation is 20 to 30 feet and does have an impact on them. And they emphasise that this business should be complying to the same rules about hours of business and operating them as Millie's do. They don't believe that there should be a difference between the two businesses. They quote noise pollution, customers, music, and the proposed air conditioning unit. Light pollution. In particular, there have been quotes regarding the LED lights which are around the premises. The environmental agency had to be called in recently, where the residents were tolerating the lights being on all night. And when they requested the owner of the premises to turn them off when the business was closed, they didn't react. They kept the lights on. So the environmental agency came in and supported their claims. So straight away, the residents are of the view that the business owner is not respectful to their needs and might give an indication of how things could work going forwards in relations between the business and the residents. They also emphasise that 11 p.m. should not mean last orders, that the business should be shut and people have left the premises. Their other big concern is around the flood risk. They still believe the removal of the wall at the front being replaced by glass will not solve the issue of flood risk. And cited a recent flood storm which occurred where the sea came up over the top of the roof of the cafe and onto the road. And that's with the wall in place. They are concerned about this, very seriously concerned. Other things that have been raised are signage. They would like assurances that no large and or overbearing signs would be erected on the premises. There's a concern around recycling facilities. On the plans at the moment, there is one bin indicated on the existing site, but there is nothing on the proposed diagrams. The concern is that there should be more than one recycling bin and that they should be properly labelled for appropriate recycling, and believe that if only one bin is continued to be used, it could form a health and safety risk or even a fire risk where everything is just dumped into one bin. They're also concerned about the potential pizzeria and servery outside on the patio, because they're mainly concerned because they have no hours of operating offered for this. That's not been included in the submission. Believe that those hours should be the same as the cafe. Their concern around this is noise levels, music, and activity out on the patio after the cafe is closed. It's a natural concern, I think. And I think what they're asking for there is containment and assurances that the hours will be adhered to outside as well as inside. I did note on the application that there is a box about staffing for the business. The existing staffing is 3 full-time. The proposed staffing is 5 full-time and 5 part-time. And I think that clearly reflects anticipated increase in business and customers, which looks to be quite considerable. And I think it's worth noting that, because it could reflect back on the concerns that the residents are citing. The other concern here is lack of information. I will refer to one of the objections on this one because it's been listed quite concisely. Not enough information given on the application. One, lack of detail on air conditioning and how the noise would be abated. No statement to confirm how the outside lighting will be controlled. No comment on how the music, whether pre-recorded or live, will be reasonable so as not to affect residents' amenity. No detail on how the pizzeria will operate, particularly if the courtyard is used. I think by courtyard, they mean the patio area. There are no details regarding how the odour from the pizzeria will be contained and will not permeate the close residential properties. There is no confirmation that the doors and windows will be closed at 2100 so as to retain noise within the building. The applicant has not confirmed that servicing of the building and deliveries will only take place after 8 AM and before 6 PM, 1800. Altogether, there is a general lack of detail which suggests that the business will be operated in an insensitive, inconsiderate and non-professional manner. As a local businessman who professes to be community-minded and concerned about the welfare of local people, the superficial detail in this application does not fill me with a great deal of confidence and that the business will not be run in a sympathetic way. So I think I'll leave it there. If anybody's got any questions or comments, please go ahead.
Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, I think the other objection, when this came up before, the other objection was to raise the height of the roof so there'll be a second story. And the residents that are only 20 or 30 feet away, you know, it would obstruct their view, obstruct their view of the sea. I think that was the main difficulty with this application, to raising the height of the roof.
Unfortunately, a right to review is not a material consideration, but it is, it would be more overlooking. So if they raise the roof, then people there will be able to overlook into their windows.
Right.
So that would be the main concern there. Was there any comment about that raising of the roof, Councillor Page, on the application?
The main comment was that there was no indication as to what the height would be. And looking at the diagrams, there are no measurements or dimensions provided at all.
Okay, I think next was Councillor Pennington and then Councillor Wallen.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I start from the feeling that the site does need development, and you know that investment would be a good thing. And I have been a bit worried by the tone, a lot of the comments in relation to Paul. I was even approached by someone who said that we should go around neighbours of his bar in the middle of Westgate and get complaints about the noise. Well, I mean, you know, there are obviously people who are gunning for this proposal. I supported our comments last time because I do remember that it was suggested that there would be a second story on top of the premises. Looking at the drawings this time, I frankly don't see that. It looks as if there is a very shallow raised roof which shouldn't impede anybody's view. I've always maintained that we should have the same operating basis for this cafe as for Millie's. They are in direct competition. I think it's unfair to have one of them more restricted in their operations than the other. So I fully support the suggestions from several residents that the same rules would apply. In other words, that the outside area would be closed after 9 o'clock. And I think to close the whole establishment down at 11 is reasonable. I mean, it is an area that's had a pub just around the corner for a long time, so it's not as if they're not used to having a pub in the area. But my own feeling is that we should give preference to the level playing field, to use a politically topical phrase, and that the licensing and the rules for operation should be the same as for Millie's. I couldn't find, or it was said unavailable when I tried to look at the traffic report, the Highways Committee, and the flood report. So I haven't seen those, but obviously if either of those is quite negative, then we ought to think seriously about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Page, did you want to come back on that?
I couldn't see anything on highways, only the comment that was there from Kent Police. The report on the flood risk didn't appear to be negative. I have to say that reading through it is not straightforward because it contains a lot of technicalities and terms that we would not be familiar with. But in general, going through it, it was not in a negative format against the cafe doing what they proposed to do.
Do you mean as in the removing the wall and putting the glass instead?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wallen.
Yeah, thank you. I've got a few little points on this one. Firstly, the outdoor bit of it, there is, I would say, an implied right of access across the outside area. Now they're looking at closing it off in some way, because I would say the land is designated as open access, and so is there a street right of way over it.
Sorry to come in. Your mic sounds like it's very, very, very tinny. So every time you're speaking, it's sort of vibrating. Right. I don't know.
What? Is this better?
Just speak slowly.
No. I will speak slowly. Was that better? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as I say, the first thing I would look at is there is perceived to be a public right of access across the outside area, which it looks like they're closing. So if it is designated as open access, can they actually legally do that? But more of my concerns is to do with the flood, the Tridex flood risk document. Spent a bit of time looking through it. First thing is it doesn't look to be that well written, because if you read through it on pages 130 to 83, it says the business used to be called Cars, but it used to be called Cabs. So if they can't even get the information right, then it doesn't infer that it's that solid in what they've got in it. There are various other bits in the document that are very questionable as well. It says, for example, section 7.4, page 39, there will be no alteration to the roof, but yet there is also talk about there being alteration to the roof. So again, it tends to suggest that the flood document isn't that valid for the current application, because they don't know the details. There are various other bits on it. There's a question of the likelihood of floods in the area, and they're saying that it's 1 in 200 years. Page 27 on the flooding report, 0.48 and 0.56 on page 31. But this contravenes other things that seem to say that it's going to be in high risk zone and potentially flooded by 2026, which isn't long from now. There are various other bits on it, but you could spend a long time going through the flood document and saying there are a lot of perceived risks mentioned there. I've written down some more, but I won't go down through them.
Okay, perhaps I suppose. Could you mute yourself? I think perhaps the answer would be that hopefully TDC will do its own report on the proposed flood risks along that area themselves, perhaps. So I think we've got a number of valid points here by the residents and by councillors. The fact that actually the time of opening it has been improved. However, it's not marrying up with Millie's Bar, because it's not stating that people must be inside by 9 o'clock. So I think that's sort of the first and foremost comment that needs to be made. And I think the trick here is the fact that it's such close proximity to residents. The pub that used to be around the corner, wasn't pretty much, just right next to somebody's window. And I think this is the issue, is that it's for a select group of residents. This is very, very close to them. So any kind of noise or impact or smells will impact them greatly. So I think it's those particular residents really that we're concerned about. Sorry, Councillor Banbridge, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like I was saying to you, that I'd spoken to Duncan previously, and he told me that he was aligning the hours with Millie's, but that doesn't seem to be the case here, does it? It does. I mean, like I was told Millie's closes at 10 completely, whereas this is saying like 11 o'clock. Also, I'm a little bit concerned about this idea of actually rallying up people and bringing them inside by 9 o'clock, because I think they probably encounter some difficulty with that. It all depends on what the premise of this is. Is it a bar or is it a restaurant? I mean, they tend to attract totally different audiences. So I mean, so if he's looking at having a bar in the evening, people drinking, and then they're drinking outside, and then it's like, oh, 9 o'clock, you've all got to come inside. I just think that they're going to have some more difficulty in policing that. I don't know how Millie's operates. I mean, I don't know if Millie's operates as a restaurant in the evenings, or whether it's
I think it's a bit of both, actually. When I've gone down there, then you can have a drink without having a meal, and they make sure that everybody's inside by 9 o'clock, and they close those big glass doors. And I think everybody just, respects that and is inside by 9. But as you said, if it depends on the reputation it gets, I think, this bar. And I think that's the concern for residents, is what kind of reputation is this place going to have? Whereas Millers has got a good reputation.
I was going to say also, you're going to get the accumulative effect though, when you have like more than one bar together in close proximity, you'll have more people coming. So your market might shift slightly, and you know, these are these concerns as well. So as I say, this whole 9 o'clock inside, I'm concerned about that. I mean, if it was a 9 o'clock for 10 o'clock finish, or the way that Millers do that, I mean, I'd need to clarify, because that's what my understanding was, that, you know, Millers, everybody was out and gone by 10 o'clock. So that's a completely different type of culture to a bar, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So I think it's a reasonable objection around the, you know, the proximity to residents with regards to noise, and, you know, the detrimental impact to their health and well-being. And then I think the other impact as well, which hasn't been mentioned, is the impact on the special protection area. So it's right by, it's next to the coastline, and the impact on the protected species of birds. And I haven't seen, even though it's included as an impact on biodiversity in the initial application, I haven't actually seen an impact report with regards to that. So that's missing in the documentation, unless I'm wrong. Councillor Page, did you see any?
No, I didn't.
No. So would somebody like to suggest a response to this application? I know we've got quite a lot of points down already. Councillor Page, would you like to sort of lead the way with the, and I think, like, if you can summarise sort of the objection in a few points, or the main points?
Okay, I think the objection needs to relate to the hours of business and the proximity to the immediate residents. Concerns around noise pollution, light pollution, and possible fumes. We should also mention, I think, the Kent Police requirement for to address the responses needed for the designing out crime department at Kent Police. Those are still outstanding. We should request the impact report regarding the coastline and biodiversity, and to look at the regarding the hours of business at Millie's and how that coincides with the hours of business here at the St Mildred's Bay, and to see where those could be coordinated.
Lovely. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Wallen. Oh, no, sorry. You want to say something? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry if it sounds awful, but I think we should definitely mention quite strongly the flood problems that could be connected to it. And also something we didn't discuss before, if alterations are made to it that makes it more likely to flood, then it ceases to be a flood prevention wall for the roads around it. And it could cause the flats, you know, some of the beach rise and things to suffer from flooding because you're moving of the fence.
Can't understand.
So, I think that's
so Councillor Wallen is saying, can you put yourself on mute again? Sorry, Councillor Wallen. Some feedback sometimes. Councillor Wallen was saying that if that wall is removed, or if there isn't a good impact from what they want instead, it can cause a flood risk to the flats themselves, not just the business. So that, I think that is, you know, quite an important point. Councillor,
so if we include in that proposal then a review of the flood risk and the report that's been provided, would that be agreeable?
I think perhaps a caveat perhaps for Councillor Pennington would be that we're not, you know, anti-business, because I think that's what you're concerned about, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, if I may, I think an introductory sentence saying, while we would welcome additional investment in the facilities, we feel that the conditions for approving this application are not yet fulfilled, and in particular, and then go on and spell out the 16 different problems that we have.
That's very reasonable. So with that, do I have a seconder from that proposal of the amendments? Councillor Woolen, thank you. And all in favour? That. Thank you. Councillor Banbridge, were you going to be calling this in?
I was just going to say, you know, like, if I mean, I don't know exactly the hours of business of Millie's, but if nobody knows, I can actually call them tomorrow and find out. Then that way, obviously, I know what to say to Duncan. But I mean, I can speak to Duncan, but I don't think I'm going to be able to resolve all of these issues. So it might be better to call it in.
I think that'd be useful to call it in if you're okay doing that.
Mm-hmm. So what? Yeah, I'll call it in anyway, because I mean, we can always withdraw that if Duncan's able to resolve the problems. But what I'd like maybe is if you could email me through all of these different. I've made a note of it. I mean, I've obviously put a notes, obviously the ones that I'm really concerned about. But if you wanted to just email me like a list of all the things, I can speak to Duncan tomorrow. And also, as I say, speak to minutes, find out exactly what their hours are, so they are married up, and then see what we can do and have the call in as a backup.
Lovely, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, last but not least. So, Paul's Bar and Bistro, 42 Station Road, Westgate-on-Sea, is a retrospective application for the erection of an external shelter. And Councillor Page has looked at this one as well.
Yes, this was refused the last time it was submitted. The shelter was actually erected in November 2019, so it is already done. The application is a resubmittal of the same application as previously. There's nothing there changed. The main reason for its refusal was that it was not in line with the requirements of the conservation area and how it appears in Station Road. It's regarded as being too large for the space that it's in, and potentially a fire risk as a smoking area because of its construction. But I can't see anything different in the new application. So I find this one a little difficult to respond to, other than to say that the requirements of the conservation area still apply. And the only other comment I would make is that the application doesn't indicate what the use of this shelter is actually meant to be for. Whether it is just a smoking shelter or whether it's likely to be used for outside music events in the summer, possibly both. But it's not very clear what its use actually is. So those are my only comments.
Thank you. I haven't actually seen it being used for any outdoor music events. The amount of hay on top of it, actually, the point that you make about the fire risk is a good one, actually. Yeah, there's a lot of straw sort of all on the top, and it kind of hangs down, so that is a consideration. I'm not totally sure about what the design is that the conservation area, it doesn't fit the conservation area. I wasn't too sure about that. Has anybody else got any comments with regards to this? Councillor Banbridge.
I did speak to Paul about this a while back, and he was told that he had to set it back about a foot from Station Road. and possibly bring it down a little bit as well. So it was about bringing it down in line with next door and putting it a foot back. So obviously he hasn't wanted to do that. He's obviously just wanted to put it back in, and unless he has made those adjustments. I don't know. So I mean, so they did. So the planning officers had given him suggestions as to, you know, how to basically comply with the standards of the area. So
okay, so I mean, unless he's complied with those suggestions.
It wasn't that much change that they were suggesting. That was what, you know, like he was a little bit like, well, you know, they only want it to be a foot back and this little bit further, maybe like, you know, half a foot further down sort of thing. So he was saying what pain it was going to be to have to sort of like move it back and cut a bit off, and, you know, like, so it's interesting that, you know, that it's been put in identically.
I suppose he thinks it's splitting hairs, but there must be a reason as to why it was turned down, and it's just better to kind of comply with those reasons, isn't it? Get a carpenter in and make the changes.
I might have a chat with whoever's on this one. I don't know if it's Emma. I'm not sure. I'll basically see if I can speak to the planning officer about it and see what's happened.
I mean, it's the fire risk that I'd be more concerned about, because I think it is really used as a smoking area, although it's not really covered very well, actually, if you're underneath it. Is it properly covered, or is it mainly the straw that's covering that area? Yeah, I'm not too sure, but it's more the fire risk. I mean, the design of it was neither here nor there to me. So I haven't really got... He
didn't mention the straw as an issue with the planning officers.
Councillor Page, where did the fire risk come in? Was that a comment?
It was a comment during the last application, but it wasn't one of the reasons that was given for refusing, okay. I have to say.
Councillor Pennington.
Well, I share your thoughts, but I mean, formally speaking, if it wasn't given as a reason last time, it's a bit difficult to move the goalposts and mention it this time. Yeah, my own view is it doesn't really suit the surroundings, but I think it's simply intended purpose is to give a bit of room outside, which is sheltered from the British weather. I mean, I've seen people wanting to use it either when it's very sunny or when there's a risk of rain. But no, there could have been a design which is much more harmonious with its surroundings. This is not the Wild West, it's Westgate.
So, have I got a suggestion? I haven't got a strong view on this one.
I must say I haven't either, to be honest with you. I think if it's used as a smoking shelter is probably a very useful one, providing it complies with requirements of its size as suggested by the council.
Yeah, I mean, if it was that the conservation area officer said that it must be designed in a particular way, then fair enough. But if it's just sort of that it needs to be moved by, you know, X number of centimetres, and yeah. Councillor Wallen. Speak slowly.
Does it sound any better?
It's not good, no.
I'm going to have to get a microphone next time. All I was going to say is that, and I'll lift it up, so it might be better if it's not reverse bouncing off anything. I was just thinking, if he's been turned down for planning and he just thinks, oh, sod it, and reapplies with exactly the same thing, doesn't it make a mockery of the whole principle of planning permission? You just keep on reapplying until you get it, which isn't right. It's been declined and so needs to be altered.
Costing him money to reapply.
Yeah, I think you're right, Councillor Wallen. If, you know, if it was turned down and there were some recommendations of how to apply again and he hasn't made them, then it does make a mockery of the planning system.
So I would repeat what I just said. I can see no harm in having the shelter there as long as it complies with the stipulations that have been made by the planning department.
Okay, so we're going to, so we don't think it has, it's not, yeah, we don't think it's compliant, do we? He hasn't made any changes. So
No, he hasn't.
okay, because the application doesn't comply with what's been recommended, therefore, you know, in planning law, it needs to be rejected. Is that simple? Councillor Woolen, is that what you're suggesting? Yeah. Okay, would you like to propose that, Councillor Woolen?
Yes, but can you hear me well enough for me to say something? I would basically just reiterate what you're saying, that as no change has been made, it needs to follow through with the original decision of being rejected.
Lovely, thank you. And have I got a second for that? Councillor Page. And is everyone in favour of that? No. So 4 in favour. Councillor Pennington, are you abstaining?
I want to abstain, yes.
Okay. Well, we come to the end of our wonderfully exciting meeting. It's getting to the end of the year, getting tired. So yeah, so thank you everyone for turning up, and thank you Councillor Bambridge for coming along and calling that application in.